Hi all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having or had a very nice Valentine's Day, depending on when you're listening to this. I am, now that you've chosen to spend this time with me. I hope you liked my little poem I wrote for you in my title. I couldn't help myself. I want to spoil you, and I'm about to, with two disturbing stories of murders that occurred on or before Valentine's Day. One not too far from where I lived at the time, and that killer's eyes, I got to look into myself. They were cold, empty, and soulless, suited to the crime he committed. So, let's get started. I'm eager to tell how Valentine's Day for two turned into complete hell. The first story I'm going to share with you may sound a bit unbelievable, but I assure you it's true. According to court documents, 33-year-old Anna Marie Chowdhury pled guilty in January of 2021 in the case of the torture and death of her sister's 38-year-old boyfriend, John McGuire, in 2019. She told the court that McGuire's murder was designed to allow her sister to marry their father, which she claims her sister did on March 11th of 2019. But before I skip straight to the happy nuptials, I need to go back to the beginning, where I can tell you how it all started. It was Valentine's Day, 2019, in Sky Gusty, West Virginia, and John McGuire and his girlfriend Amanda McClure were in love. So, they planned a lovely romantic dinner at the home where they lived with Amanda's sister Anna Marie and her father and soon-to-be husband, Larry McClure. But what began as a lovely dinner of steaks, potatoes, and wine quickly turned into a game. A game Larry called a game of trust. A game John would not survive. According to Anna Marie's testimony, John and Amanda had been coming off meth pretty hard, so, before dinner, they decided to make a homemade batch. After dinner, Amanda started bragging about how she could escape from any tied-up situation, so the game began. Anna Marie claimed that at that time, she was not aware of a romantic relationship between her sister and her father, and when she was asked to cut up pieces of rope, she didn't think anything of it. Then, Larry asked John to trust him, to tie him up to see if he could escape. Anna Marie told the court that once John was securely tied up, Amanda grabbed the bottle of wine and smashed it over John's head. Then they injected him with the homemade meth. She said because she was the one with the nursing experience, Amanda gave her 2 syringes she said were filled with a bad batch of meth, and then ordered her to inject them into his carotid artery. Amanda told her it should be enough meth to kill him. But when it didn't, she said they hogtied him and laid him face down on a bed. She said her father instructed her to strangle John and threatened to kill her children if she didn't. So, she told the judge, she did. But not before Larry and Amanda put their feet on his back and forced his face down into the mattress as they ridiculed him. After she strangled him, Anna Marie said she was told to gather up his belongings and burn them out in the yard. She said the following day, she was ordered to put John's body in a garbage bag so they could dump him down a mine shaft where he would never be found. She told the court that rigor mortis had set in, so she was required to snap his limbs in order to make him fit in the garbage bag. She said it was a sound she never wants to hear again. Then they drove around with John's body until they found an appropriate place to dig his grave together. You know, because a family that digs graves together stays together. She said after they buried him, Larry and Amanda went about their lives like nothing happened, and they started living their romantic relationship out in the open. But she said Amanda wasn't so sure that John was really dead. So, 2 weeks later, they ordered Anna Marie to dig up his body so she could check. She said Amanda wasn't convinced he was dead because she claimed his hair was longer than it was when they murdered him on Valentine's Day. So, to reassure her, as any good fiancé would, her father began pounding John's dead body with bed rails and a sledgehammer just to make sure. Then, once Amanda was completely convinced that John was dead, the three headed off to Virginia to apply for a marriage license. Anna Marie said she was forced to go because she was told she had to act like a happy witness. Then, on their wedding night, they celebrated by digging up John's body again and dismembering him so they could rebury him in two separate places because Larry wanted to landscape the property and put it up for sale, and John's body was in the way. After he was moved and all was settled, Anna Marie said she was finally able to escape from her father and sister, and shortly after, her father was arrested. Then both Anna Marie and Amanda were arrested as well. Larry confessed to John's murder in November of 2019, saying he just wanted it over with. It wasn't his first rodeo, since he had already done 17 years in prison for the sexual assault of an underage girl, so he knew he was done for. He was charged with first-degree murder and was sentenced to life imprisonment with no mercy, meaning no parole. Ever. Amanda McClure pled guilty to second-degree murder in 2020 and was sentenced to 40 years. Anna Marie was charged with first-degree murder but pled down to second-degree murder in January of 2021. She's facing up to 40 years in prison as well, but she has yet to be sentenced. That poor man. He sat down to enjoy a nice Valentine's Day dinner, having no idea that the woman he loved had already planned his murder. Now, I got no words for her murdering her boyfriend to marry her father, because there are no words in existence for something like that. And I get that she didn't want to be a shitty person and break up with her boyfriend on Valentine's Day, but I think she took it all way too far. Just my opinion. Now, on to my next story that shook my freezing ass cold state of Michigan to its core as we watched it unfold many, many moons ago. It was local to me, and I remember being glued to every detail as it was being released on the news. I remember watching 37-year-old Stephen Grant do tons of media interviews swearing he had nothing to do with his wife's disappearance and claiming police harassment. I remember looking into his eyes on TV and thinking he was guilty then, but I had no idea I'd get to look into his eyes in person, stare him down, and know for real. His case made national headlines after he reported his wife Tara missing from their home in Washington Township, Michigan, much like those of Scott Peterson and Chris Watts. And it all started on Valentine's Day in 2007. Police in Macomb County, Michigan, said they received a call on February 14th from Stephen Grant, who claimed his wife Tara had been missing for 5 days. He told police it wasn't the first time she took off for days on end, leaving him home with their 2 young children. But this time, he was worried. He said he and Tara had gotten into an argument. Then he overheard her on the phone telling someone she'd meet them at the end of the driveway. He said after that, he never saw her again. After questioning him, police obviously didn't believe his story, because the next day, after he reported Tara missing, he was pulled over and arrested for driving on a suspended license. Stephen claimed it was police harassment, stating they used the arrest to question him further about Tara's disappearance. Police were doing daily press conferences to update the public about the case, and they made it very clear early on that Stephen was less than cooperative with their investigation. Which was odd, because he was yelling and screaming to any news outlet that would listen that he had nothing to do with Tara's disappearance and that police were just harassing him. Yes, I do remember feeling sorry for him. Police searched their Washington Township home a number of times during their investigation, but never found any evidence of a crime. So, they stayed focused on Stephen, as we all did, because the way he was acting just wasn't right. Police conducted searches all around the area of their home, including a huge public park area near Stony Creek Beach. But no Tara. They didn't find Tara, but they did find a plastic bag containing latex gloves, plastic bags, metal shavings, and human blood in a wooded area not far from the Grant home. Police found it interesting that the bag contained metal shavings because Stephen worked in a tool and die shop. So, they had them examined, and it was determined they were consistent with metal shavings found in his shop, a shop owned by his father. At that point, police suspected that they may no longer be searching for Tara's body intact. So, they paid another visit to Stephen's home and conducted another search. This time, Stephen was there, and police could tell their searches were making him more and more nervous. During this search, one of the officers who had previously conducted a search at the home noticed a large Tupperware storage container in the garage that wasn't there before. When he opened it, he found the frozen torso of a woman. When he went to arrest Stephen, he was gone. He fled the scene in a friend's pickup truck. Police began tracing Stephen's phone and tracked him to a cabin in the wilderness at the very top of Lower Michigan. Officers went to the area and found the abandoned truck, so they knew he was near, but they said they had no idea what they were up against. They didn't know if he was possibly suicidal or if he was armed and ready for a gunfight. So, they sent a helicopter up that tracked his footprints in the snow until he was located. He was found barely dressed, freezing, near a fallen tree in the woods. He was rushed to the hospital where he was treated for hypothermia, and when he was released, police say he gave a lengthy, detailed confession about Tara's murder. He told police he murdered Tara in their home when she returned from a business trip. He said he strangled her, and their young children were home with them at the time of her murder. He then took her body to his father's tool and die shop and dismembered her. He told police he took her to the wooded area at Stony Creek Metro Park and spread her body parts there. But when he learned that police would be conducting a search there, he went back and used his children's snow sled to recover her torso and take it back home, where he hid it in a bin in his garage. Then he told police where they could recover the rest of her body parts. One of the hardest things about watching the investigation unfold was watching Tara's sister support Stephen and believe that he was not involved all the way up until they found her torso in the garage. He tore her family apart, not to mention what he did to his own children. Police charged Stephen with first-degree murder, but he was only convicted of second-degree. Don't ask me how. And he was sentenced to 50 years in prison. I happened to be going to the courthouse where his trial was being held on the first day it started, and as I walked up to the courthouse, I saw all the news vans and police cars, but had no idea it was for him. I was stopped by an officer who was keeping people back so he could be taken into the courthouse. So, I stood there as they took him out of the van and escorted him in. I recognized him right away, and as the cameras flashed and reporters yelled his name as he walked in, he looked right at me and made eye contact with me. He looked sad, pathetic, and scared, but his eyes were cold and empty. I could tell there was no soul behind them. I'd never knowingly come face to face with a killer before, and even though we only locked eyes for a moment, it wasn't anything like I thought it would be. I thought it would freak me out, give me the chills or something, but it didn't. It intrigued me. It made me want more. I wanted to follow him, to talk to him, to find out what was really going on behind his empty eyes. I wanted to know why he killed her, and how he could do it with his children there, and how he could cut her up like an object instead of seeing her as a human being that he once claimed to love. But I would have never gotten any of those answers from him. Nobody ever has. Sure, there were rumors that he was having an affair with his babysitter, but his lawyer claimed that he just lost it in a moment of anger and he killed her. Maybe, maybe not. But that makes me want to ask Tara's family if they saw the coldness and the emptiness in his eyes all along, or if they became that way after Tara disappeared. Then again, knowing what he did to her, I think I already know that answer. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate your time and support on my channel, and I'll see you on my next video.